Raise your hands if you've seen a headline in the news recently about the state of our natural environment. Now, think about how many of those were positive. Coastal ecosystems, like many ecosystems, are under siege, facing threats from large-scale pollution to overfishing. Now, as we lose these critical ecosystems, we actually lose services they provide, from food provisioning to atmosphere regulation. Most countries recognise this need and have vowed to protect 30% of oceans by 2030. How on earth do we do this? We think of charismatic megafauna like dolphins and whales as the main species ambassadors that garner interest and funds towards these commitments. But I urge you to consider the seahorse. Whilst being beautiful, these creatures are excellent indicators of ecosystem health, whose compelling nature have been pushing protections worldwide. But have they reached their potential? The Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, is home to 3 seahorse species, pictured, one of which is already vulnerable to extinction. These populations are severely understudied in the region and are facing immense pressures, including illegal wildlife trade. My research constitutes the first baseline assessments on these populations in the region. In part 1, I will interview fishing people, academics, and other local stakeholders to gather data on trade and fishing practices. In part 2, I actually dive underwater to assess seahorse populations in situ, measuring occurrence, sex, size, reproductive phase, alongside GPS logging. I aim to survey around 20 dive sites across a 2-month period along the coastline. Each of these sites selected based on a random sampling method, stratified by habitat suitability. This method is briefly captured in part 2. Alongside each data point, I will also be gathering some environmental data like temperature. Together with the occurrence data and the environmental data, we can actually build species distribution models, which help to better predict where the species of seahorse are, kind of like the heat map you see here. Then, we can better predict how they'll respond to variables in the future, like rising sea temperatures. We can then provide local governments in Mexico with tools like these models and the outputs from the interviews to start designing sort of better guided policy interventions around trade and marine protected areas. So, seahorses are small, but they are mighty for conservation. By safeguarding these creatures, we take a significant step towards preserving wider marine biodiversity and seeing headlines in the news that promise a brighter and better managed ocean reality.